The downfall of Manchester City. One win in 9 games, closer to 12th and 1st on the Premier League table in December, at risk of missing out on the knockout rounds of the Champions League. 7 games in a row without a win at some point in the season. First team in the history of the Champions League to be 3-0 up going into the 75th minute and not end up winning the game. Guys, I'm not describing Aston Villa's season here. This is Manchester City, the great Manchester City, the same guys who completed the European treble in 2023, the same guys who are current Premier League champions and who have won a record 4 league titles in a row. The same guys for whom the current Ballon d'Or, Premier League Golden Boot, and Player of the Season winners play. The same guys who have won 6 out of the last 7 Premier League titles. The same guys who are led by one of the brightest minds in football history. Yes, those same guys. What we are witnessing right now is absolutely unbelievable. But guys, pinch yourselves. It is happening, for real. It is happening to Manchester City. It is happening to Pep Guardiola. Basically, the giants of England and Europe are having a nightmare season, and it is unbelievably crazy. Their fans are terrified by it, while their opponents are quite happy to see it. But wait a goddamn minute. What exactly is going on? Is this just a minor stumble, or is it the beginning of the end? And what is the root cause? Also, a lot of people are wondering, is there a way back for the English champions, or is it over? Guys, let's talk about the downfall of Manchester City. First of all, many people say that this downfall started when Rodri got injured. And it sort of makes sense considering that the team started the season brilliantly and things started to go downhill from that point. But the truth is that Manchester City's problems started before that. You can actually trace it back to the summer when we saw the club put up a horrible depiction of squad building. Manchester City had a squad which had dominated England and Europe for the better part of the last 5 years, but they saw no need to refresh it and keep them competitive. That has turned out to be a huge mistake. The squad was aging rapidly, but City did not make any meaningful signing in the summer. Instead, they let players leave without replacements, seriously reducing their depth and shrinking their squad size. Julian Alvarez, João Cancelo, Calvin Phillips, Sergio Gomez, Yan Koto, Harwood Bellis, and a couple more guys left the club, but City only signed Savinho and brought a 34-year-old Gundogan back. What this meant is that Man City came into the new season without a backup striker, without a backup defensive midfielder, without a natural left back, without a natural backup right winger, and without enough depth in the center back position. They also came into the 2024-25 season with 9 players over the age of 30, making them the 4th oldest squad in the Premier League. All of these put together are a recipe for disaster, and we are seeing that disaster unfold in real time right now. When you have a crop of aging players who have won all there is to win in the sport, it is really hard to motivate them to go further. They have broken all the records available, so there is no more ambition. New signings were important for Man City if they wanted to continue to compete, but that they did not heed. Now, they are suffering because of it. And then, to make matters worse, injuries came in right from the beginning of the season and made everything worse for them. Oscar Bob, Ruben Diaz, Nathan Ake, John Stones, Mateo Kovacic, Kevin De Bruyne, Phil Foden, Jeremy Doku, Jack Grealish, and Savinho have all been injured at one point or another in this season. That is almost the entire starting 11. Crazy. And then of course the biggest loss of all, Rodri. He has been Manchester City's best player and most consistent performer over the last couple of years. Even before he got injured, everyone often talked about how different things usually are for City when Rodri is on the pitch. I mean, this is a guy who lost just 1 game in 85 for both club and country. He is practically irreplaceable and is definitely going to be a huge loss for any team. In fact, losing Rodri alone is as detrimental as losing 3 average players. He is that good, and the Ballon d'Or is a testament to that. Any team at all will be shaken by the loss of their Ballon d'Or winner, so we shouldn't really be surprised by what's going on with Manchester City right now. But let's face it, even as bad as the injury problems are, the issues are obviously a lot more than that. No disrespect to Pep Guardiola or anything. He is obviously one of the greatest managers of all time, but this man might actually have run out of ideas. One thing about Pep is that he has always evolved. The way he played at Barcelona at the start of his managerial career is not the same way he's playing at Manchester City right now. He's changed a lot over the years, and he's always coming up with new ideas to dominate games and win trophies. And it's always worked. Well, until now. This time around, it seems like he has a mental block or something. Nothing he is trying is working, and he seems to be spiraling because of that. The man is now replying to trolls, scratching his face during games, and then joking about wanting to harm himself. He also enjoys flaunting the trophies he's won, and getting into a battle of the words with Jose Mourinho. He is really going through it, this man. Of course, knowing who he is, I won't write him off. It would be stupid to do that. This man can still cook up some genius plan to overturn this horrible run and go on to conquer it all. But the reality is that at this moment, nothing is going his way. But I'll also say that one of Man City's biggest problems right now is psychological. First of all, as I said earlier, these players have won so much that they seem to have no motivation to do much more. You can clearly see it in their demeanor on the pitch. They're no longer chasing down balls and opponents as they used to. We're now seeing more loose passes, and there just seems to be a collective lackadaisical attitude from most of the players. And it's really not anything too surprising either. Every team that dominates for an extended period is destined to have a period of lows. The season after Real Madrid's three-peat, they got knocked out in the 16th round of the Champions League, finished third in La Liga, and went trophyless. So what Manchester City is going through right now is nothing too surprising. It always happens. You can call it the cycle of football life. But apart from the lack of motivation, there's a huge possibility that the players are hugely affected by all of the BS currently surrounding the club. As you probably already know, Man City's case is currently in court for the infamous 115 charges. And no matter how confident the club might present, the players might have some fear lingering in the back of their minds. If City are found guilty, the punishment will hugely affect the players. They could be relegated, points could be deducted from them, they could be stripped of their previous medals, or they could even be banned from the league completely, according to different sources. If any of these things happen, it'll leave the future of these players up in the air, so it can't be so surprising that their performances on the pitch are currently affected by everything that's going on around them. Finally, the most bitter pill to swallow is that some of the players are just not that good anymore, especially for the level of play that's required of them. Guys like Kyle Walker, Gundogan, and sometimes Bernardo Silva cannot be relied upon game in, game out anymore. Even guys like Ederson, Akanji, and Gvardiol have been shaky during this recent run and have been very prone to making errors. So what do Man City need to get out of this mess? Well, first of all, they need to try and stay alive until January, and then they can buy a few players that can help them salvage their season. They need to buy a proper defensive midfielder, a backup striker so that Haaland can get some competition, and maybe a winger and an extra midfielder. City needs depth going into the business end of the season in order for their performances to not be hugely affected by injuries. Because the fact is, like it or not, there will still be more injuries along the way. Also, Pep Guardiola just needs to go back to the drawing board. Obviously, I can't tell him what to do. He is the best at what he does. All I know is that he needs to just go back into the lab and cook up something different because opponents appear to have caught him up with his tactics. I mean, every manager who's worth their salt seems to be dunking on Pep lately. Amorim slapped him 4-1 in the Champions League. Slot beat him 2-0. Ange Postecoglou went to the Etihad and came out with a 4-0 win. Even the new boy in town, Fabian Hürzeler, pulled off a 5-minute comeback against him in the Premier League. Pep really needs to just go back to that drawing board, and he needs to do it as soon as possible too. But seriously, what do you guys think will become of Manchester City's season? Do you think that this is the beginning of the end for them, or do you still think that they can bounce back? If you do think that they'll bounce back, how soon will they do it? Do you still think that they can come back to win a couple of trophies this season, or is this campaign already a write-off? Guys, you made it this far in the video, you gotta go in the comments and tell me your opinion, because honestly at this point I don't know what to believe. Also, I've been busy crunching the numbers, and there's statistically a non-zero chance that if you hit that red little subscribe button and like the video, that Man City will end up winning. Similarly, if you're not a fan of Man City, then there's no harm in hitting the subscribe button as well. So the way I see it, it's really a no-brainer. But one thing's for sure, whatever the outcome is, you can stay up to date on it by hitting that red little button. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one.